Okay, so this is our first lunar observance night since the ending of the Vasa, the rains retreat period. And there's always there's always changes taking place, but that's after the Vasa period, and Ajahn Yaniko initiated just 3 days of practicing hand sewing and getting us all prepared for the upcoming Katina. And so there were some people who were already had experience, and those of us like myself who didn't have. So it was an opportunity to practice, to learn new skill. And then the last day of the 3 days, then the last day was really a full-on doing the robe from start to finish, and right from in the same way that we would do it for on Katina Day. And so we got a estimate of time of what it could be, what we could be looking forward to. Hopefully we'll do better than that on the Katina Day. Yeah, and Ajahn Yaniko had a really nice idea to take that robe and then offer it to either to Lopa Liam or to Ajahn Jandi or to some senior monk, some monastery, that because he'll be going next week. Next week, be going to Thailand, because he'll join Katina for Wat Nanachat and Wat Papong. He'll make it in time for that. So that's a lovely thing to think of, and of course it was a great thing to do. But then after the robe sewing, which was everybody together and everybody helping out and everybody in each other's presence, and we've had a whole period of not having morning pujas, evening pujas, and it's been quite delightful to have time for seclusion, because it's important to give ourselves this opportunity for seclusion. The kind of default option for us as human beings. We're social creatures, and in general don't gravitate to solitude. We gravitate to gathering together, being with each other, and getting up each other's noses and irritating each other. So it's helpful to really quite consciously take time to develop a comfort and ease with solitude or seclusion. In the something that the Buddha praises is viveka. And traditionally, the Buddha speaks of 3 different kinds of viveka: kaya viveka, chitta viveka, upadhi viveka. Kaya viveka is the solitude of, literally the solitude of the body, so that just having is that where you're not socializing, where you're not in each other's space. And for us living in the community here, of course, that opportunity is quite readily available because we live in a forest. We've got the communal spaces which we come to, and of course that's something that Ajahn Chah used to emphasize a lot, is learning how to develop a balance of communal skills and the skills of living in seclusion. So here we tend to have opportunities. We've got kutis that we can all go to in the afternoon, the evening, and be on our own in the forest. And so having a natural setting to retreat to turn to say associate with, and that it's really uplifting to the heart to tune into the rhythms of of nature and the space and the kind of spaciousness of nature and the quiet of nature. I mean, nature can be very busy also, but in general, especially our forest, there's a kind of a stillness that is there that really helps. It's very soothing to the heart, so that allowing the external environment to affect one in a wholesome way, a positive way. Because a lot of the proliferations and complications of our mind can readily drop away when we just pay attention to the quiet of the environment. And of course it's there wherever we are, even if we're in time. I mean, remember Ajahn Chah, the very first time that he went to England, and he was in London, and absolutely delighting in the quiet of being in because he hadn't experienced a cold climate before, all the wind, and being in a building where you close the windows and you're on your own, and didn't have. I mean, he tended to have people around him all the time, and so that was an opportunity for viveka for him, and and some of his most kind of clear and detailed instructions and recollections or reflections around developing of samadhi came from that period when he came back from England, because he had the kaya viveka and the time of on his own, and it was quiet. A lot of it's around, I think in terms of seclusion of time as well, just having a time to be on one's own. And of course, time is an elusive object, because it's, but in a conventional way, just giving oneself the opportunity, the time to be on one's own, and have that physical solitude and seclusion, because then the heart responds to that. And the sense of how we do get tangled up in busyness, and even if and we all know that, but go back to your kuti, nobody's there. The forest is very silent. The mind has carried a whole host of characters along with one, or a whole host of projects to proliferate about. But it's more easy to see, or it should be more easy to see, rather than, because that's that physical solitude sort of holds a mirror up to it and sort of says, okay, you're creating this problem, you're creating this complication. So it is very helpful to have that. Yeah, this the time and the nature around one, and it and of course just in being in nature is the beauty of nature wherever one is. It's like one of the surprising, the most rapturous poetry from the Therigatha is Mahakassapa, who's sort of the chief, the disciple who's foremost in kind of the ascetic practices, and he comes across in some of his interactions with the sanghas, and particularly with Ananda, as a bit kind of dour, but the verses in the Therigatha that are credited to him is just delighting, and this kind of rapture of being in nature, and the heart kind of singing with the pleasure of being surrounded by beauty. So it's there are avenues of delight that are important to explore, and seclusion is one of them. Of course, the Buddha also talked about citta viveka, the seclusion of the mind, of the heart. And of course, that's the name of the very first forest monastery that Ajahn Sumedho established in England. What citta viveka, and it's because he'd already been in London for 2 years, and also recognizing that he was embarking on a life that was going to involve teaching and training and taking on duties and responsibilities and being with people. And he knew that his days of kaya viveka were already in the past. So he named the monastery both as a reminder to himself as well as a recollection of that citta viveka, that developing that solitude of heart, and that one can carry with one, just where the heart, the mind, does not get entangled with the world outside. And citta viveka is also it generally refers to like samadhi, the mind that is posed, is settled, is peaceful. And that's where one's the seclusion of the heart. And it's that seclusion of the heart is experienced through a shedding or pulling back from a relinquishing of the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and skeptical doubt. Those are the qualities that obstruct awareness and hinder discernment, clear seeing. And so it's this seclusion of the heart, this citta viveka, is a stilling of that outgoing tendency to things that complicate and agitate. Those agitations of desire, of aversion, of just dullness, restlessness, and anxiety, fear, doubt, wavering. The capacity of the mind to not be entangled is always accessible to us, but this is why we train, because otherwise if we're not paying attention to the training, if we're not willing to give ourselves to the training, then that's our life revolves around. It can be quite positive, can be quite pleasant, but it's just sort of one reaction after another. And it's just there's always more. And to be able to find a place of stillness within the heart, and that where there is a seclusion of heart, that there's contentment, being able to be content within oneself and not be shaken and moved by the likes and dislikes and different cravings that are part and parcel of our human condition. So it's an opportunity to dwell in a place of well-being. And again, it's learning how to carry that around with one as well. In that, that was these different forms of viveka are, I guess, the external seclusion is very supportive. Citta viveka, the meditative training, is very supportive. Seeing clearly, but we also need to be able to carry it with us so that we're not entangled. So that citta viveka, because wherever we go, we carry this body mind with us. So just learning how to do that gracefully is where we have a sense of autonomy, that seclusion of the heart that isn't just willing to give our mood to approval, disapproval, to the whatever mood flits through our consciousness. It's so important to recognize we've got choices. What choices are we willing to make? What are we willing to relinquish in order to be peaceful? Because we're usually That's a function of delusion, really. And of course, that's where it takes one into that upadhi, viveka. And it's like a spiritual seclusion, spiritual solitude. Upadhi is translated as acquisitions, attachments. And generally, it's usually, which is a fair enough translation, but it usually doesn't mean so much. But the upadhi its root is the same as upadana, so attachment. But what one is acquiring, they say the acquisitions that one is picking up, or the attachments that one is attached to, it's an identification with the five khandhas, that identification with body, feeling, perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, this whole body-mind complex. So carrying around a sense of self, a sense of me. This is me, this is mine, this is the sense of an Western term, an ego. That's both worried about praise and blame, worried about loss and gain. And and as long as there's this sense of ego and self, and there's not much solitude really. We have this me nattering away to ourselves. It's not that peaceful really. And so that willingness to, that relinquishment is such a part of the very direct experience of this solitude, of a spiritual solitude. So that's the essence of the path, and the essence of a true path is really relinquishment, letting go, non-attachment. This is the path that the Buddha laid down, and that's like with the Anapanasati Sutta. That's the 16 stages of Anapanasati. The last stage culminates in contemplating relinquishment. I breathe in, contemplating relinquishment. I breathe out. That's your peak, your pinnacle. What you're building that strength and steadiness of heart towards is a relinquishment. So it's this contemplating and training the heart to delight in relinquishment. You realize how much lighter the heart is when we're willing to let go, when we're willing to let go of our moods, when we're willing to let go of our resentments, when we're willing to let go of our kind of attachments, what I want or I need, because there's that sense of incessant I want, I need, I should, I shouldn't, there's that pushes away this seclusion of the heart, stillness and solitude of the heart. And there's a beautiful image that the Buddha uses in referring to solitude, and said it's like a bird taking a dust bath, where a bird sort of gets in, and we see it with the quail here all the time, where there's a nice dusty spot, and they get themselves into the dust, and then they just shake all the dust off, and sort of this solitude is like the shaking off the dust of the world. It's because it doesn't need to stick to us. And so it's this image of the quail shaking the dust off. There's also another sutta where the Buddha hears about a monk who is dedicated to solitude or seclusion, and he calls the monk to him and said, because I think the monk was making a big deal of himself being so dedicated to seclusion or solitude. And okay, how do you practice seclusion? He said, well, I go alms round alone, I eat alone, I sit meditation alone, I walk meditation alone. And the Buddha sort of said, well, that's kind of a aloneness and seclusion. It's kind of a viveka. But maybe listen to what I have to say in order to perfect aloneness or seclusion. And the Buddha says, it's the sense of being unattached to whatever is past is relinquished. Whatever is future is let go of. And whatever passion and desire there is for present states of mind are well subdued. It's interesting. So that is that willingness, that this is how solitude is perfected. So it's one's relationship to. Because when we think of past, future, or even the present, it's all about what I'm experiencing, what I think, or what I feel, and to be ready to let it all go, and to recognize, well, it's the way the mind works, being patient, being kind to oneself, and not believing in it, well subdued, and just not having to believe in all of the reactions and proliferations that one has. Because the world has always got a story line, and it's just like pleading for some reaction. Give me some reaction. And we're usually willingly comply with getting entangled and caught up with the likes and dislikes that we have toward the world, the approval and disapproval, and we suffer. So it's the opportunity is one of choosing seclusion on this, not just on a physical level, but on an emotional level, on a mental level, where we really create an independence of heart. And it's not that we have to shut anything out, but it's just not getting, buying into it. It's like I was listening to a biography of Suzuki Roshi, and there was he was saying that let's say the secret of Soto Zen is in 2 words. Not always so, which of course is not 2 words, but it's 2 words in Japanese. But, but not always so, because again, and that's your kind of the mind comes up. I like this, I don't like that. Should be this way, shouldn't be that way. The world is like this, and the world should be like that. And I approve of this, I disapprove of that. And it's just like not always so. And to really question that reactivity and storyline, because we love our stories, and to be able to just relinquish that habit, but having a tool to reflect on or counter it. So it's not always so. I mean, it's similar to Lompa Cha's Mainah. It's like, that's not a sure thing, not uncertain. And we have we form our opinions, we have our takes on what this person's like, or what this other person should be like, and it's not always so. It's uncertain, not a sure thing. And when we're willing to look at things in that light, then there's the possibility of relinquishment, of letting go, of not getting entangled. And relinquishment isn't just it's not just a pushing away. It's through clear seeing and a clear heart, one realizes, I don't need this. I don't need this in order to be happy, to be contented, to be peaceful. It's nobody needs it. And delighting in relinquishment. Again, that's not always so, or uncertain. Sure. It's also, don't turn that into a fixed doctrine either. It's true, but don't cling to that either. It's not always so. So it's really worthy of reflection and seeing, because this, how can I dwell in this human condition, recognize it, and do it skillfully, do it beautifully, and experience the fruits of the insight that the Buddha had into liberation. So I'll offer that for reflection this evening.